Do you believe that everyone has a story? Do you want to know about the passions and the stories that drive people to do the things that they do? Maybe you have a vision that intrigues you and you want a little inspiration. If you want to learn about the interesting journeys that people are taking, then you've come to the right place. Get ready to be informed and amused in all aspects of life and the crazy places it takes us. Hot Water 911 brings you Going Home with Tony. And now, here is your host, Tony Shemeka.
Well, welcome to the Hot Water 911 Boiler Room Studio Halloween Special.
It is a Halloween special.
And live, you are live, aren't you, Jay?
Yeah, pretty much I'm live.
Okay, so you hadn't died and you came back in the spirit sense. You are currently breathing. You have a pulse.
I'm breathing. I have a pulse. I also have a cough.
You have a cough.
Yeah.
So you've got is it a paranormal cough or?
No, I think it's just a cold.
Just a cold. Okay, the common cold. Jay, how do you pronounce your last name? I'm sorry.
Are you ready for this one?
Yeah.
We are.
Bachochin.
Oh, that would be easy.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we have Jay Bachochin in the studio today, and I'm here with Claudia, and this is our Halloween special show, and it is guaranteed to scare me.
The Going Home with Tony show.
I was, I don't know if you remember, there used to be a series in Chicago called Creature Feature.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how far it got out there.
Actually, if you'll notice, the bio actually references it.
Creature Feature. It's a very well-produced show. And I used to get freaked out by the casket opening. I said, well, that's enough for me.
Turning this off.
So without any further ado.
We might be related there, Tony.
Okay, good.
Growing up that way, I
shared
the same freak out.
I still cannot watch Blair Witch Project without
shivering in your boots.
Yeah, holding on to my teddy. Okay, go ahead, Claudia.
All right, I have a little bio here of Jay Bachochin. He is considered a truthologist, I like that word, and a field researcher. He's a founder of the Wisconsin Paranormal Investigators Hunts the Truth, or WPI Hunts the Truth. You can find out more about Jay and his group WPI Hunts the Truth by going to www.wpihuntstetruth.com. Jay has been interested in the paranormal pretty much since he was old enough to hold an interest. He was raised on Creature Features back in the early 70s and loved anything that was supernatural. In 1979, he witnessed something paranormal firsthand and saw the most amazing display of a well-lit flying object above his head in his hometown of Lindenhurst, Illinois. Was it a UFO? Until this day, he can't explain what he saw, but it started his desire to hunt for the truth. Throughout his life, Jay has experienced many different types of paranormal activity, not all ghostly experiences, but odd experiences, to say the least. He has witnessed many different unidentified flying objects near his hometown and his current residence over the years. Jay believes that we are not alone in our universe, and as a result, he chooses to think outside the box, because he believes that anything is possible. He doesn't call himself a ghost hunter or a UFOologist or a cryptozoologist. I don't know what that is. Mm-hmm. He is a truthologist, one that seeks the truth of anything paranormal.
Well, we are always seeking the truth here at Going Home with Tony. Jay, there seems to be this new Bermuda Triangle going on up in La Crosse, Wisconsin. What's happening up there?
Yeah. Well, I mean, with this, right now, getting a little bit into it, I was contacted back in 2010 with some of the drowning victims of the La Crosse, some college kids up there since 1997. And this was an investigation of a lifetime because it really didn't, it wasn't really ghost-related or UFO-related or Bigfoot-related. It was an X-file in itself, and it's still an unsolved mystery up until this time. Just every couple of years, it seems that the same, the male gender, same age, college student, seems to be getting away from the crowd that he is with, maybe out partying, how college kids do, and then they end up missing, and then they find him in the Mississippi River. And it seems like it's been happening since 1997.
How many victims has there been?
Right now, 10.
No kidding.
And
Yeah.
so they're not sure if this is a serial killer. That was one of the things, a smiley face serial killer, or if this is what we would loosely call paranormal activity. So that's what has brought you into this investigation?
Oh yes, definitely. And it's basically because I was phoned in, from Neil Sanders, the chief deputy medical officer that was working on some of the victims. He's retired now, but he kind of came to some dead ends out there because they had the FBI out there. You have your law enforcement, the detectives, and honestly, it's still unknown exactly what's going on until this date. We did film a documentary. It's actually released now.
Oh, it is?
Yes, it is.
And how can people see that?
If they go to www.hiddentruthproductions.com.
Okay.
I am one of the producers. I'm one of 3 of the producers. And right there, you can learn more about that subject. And believe me, I couldn't even. We would spend hours upon hours talking about this because it's so in depth. But it'd be a good place to start to look at the website.
Sure.
I'm a producer, but I'm also a researcher, investigator. That's part of that documentary.
We'll put that information on our website so people can look for that.
Great.
I had in one of your EVTs. What's EVP again, Jay?
Yes, electronic voice phenomena.
Here's one that I will take to my grave. It was November 20th, 1988, and it was around 2 p.m. My dad had a massive heart attack on a Thursday, and his condition continually deteriorated. So on Sunday morning, they scheduled him for emergency open heart surgery. So he had been in surgery since about 11 o'clock in the morning, and by 2 p.m., we were just all exhausted from all the anxiety. And so picture the entire family in the waiting area for surgery, and I had found a gurney to lie down on, and my girlfriend was just kind of stroking my forehead, and immediately I just fell asleep and really went into a deep sleep. And all of a sudden, I woke up, I sat up in that gurney, and I heard my dad say, "Yeah," in a real
and only the way he could.
Gravelly voice. She heard the same thing, and we looked at the clock, and it was 2 p.m., and that was the official time of death.
Wow.
And so when I saw your video about your EVP on somebody who heard the word "yeah," we always wonder, what is that moment like where we decide to take that fork in the road, and the fork doesn't bring us back, it moves us forward. What are your feelings about that, and how do you feel that you'll respond when it's your turn to say "yeah"?
Right. Well, yeah.
Not a simple question.
Well said, Jay.
Thanks. It's a tough. It's a tough question. It's tough answers with that because we really don't know. This is what I'm doing, seeking the truth, or when I'm hunting the truth. When I'm going out there, I am looking for those answers more so than the encounters. Whether I'm out in the woods with Bigfoot or if I'm in, the creepiest house or even the newest house and something like that happens, I don't really get, startled that way because I know it exists. But I'm trying to peel that onion to find out exactly what it is. Are we dealing with, the from beyond, passing on the spirits? Are we talking about possible parallel universes, dimensions? We really don't know. And that's the funny thing about being in this field is that if you are not going with the mainstream, especially in the field with ghosts, as soon as you park yourself outside of that a little bit, you're kind of, I don't want to say castaway. Some people will respect you for thinking outside the box. But there's a lot of people saying, no, that's what it is. It is, they are people that have died and moved on. Now, I don't have that answer. So that's how come I don't judge, anything I'm
Either
saying,
way,
whether it's
right.
a ghost or a spirit.
Right.
But I like to keep my options open. As soon as I come to one conclusion that it is a spirit, moving on, then I say, okay, I put that aside, and then I come up with another conclusion. Once I get to that conclusion, I move on to the next. So now I have in front of me just several different options. So now when I'm out hunting the truth, I kind of know what I'm looking for, asking for, instead of, going and doing an EVP session and saying, was this a violent death? Questions like that. I'm asking more of, what year is it? What do you see?
Mm-hmm.
Do you see me? Just some particular questions to find out if they could be time related.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I can say that all I want, but Tony, you were just giving a very compelling story of what you and your girlfriend heard at that time. So, how can you explain some of these things, which I don't have that answer,
Mm-hmm.
because, I'd love to say that it's our spirits leaving, but then I start thinking about how time is, and how time is just infinite, right? It never stops. There's no beginning, there's no end. So therefore, are we, if we do pass on, are we, coming back? Sometimes, and I'm jumping kind of all over a little bit, but sometimes I think, what if, time is constantly moving, we are in the present, but the past is still going on and the future is still going on, right?
Right.
So
I call that
you're preaching to the choir here.
You're singing my song here, Jay. I call it time is omnipresent.
Right.
That there is no past, there's no present, and there's no future, but
right.
everything is colliding at the same time.
Okay, so exactly, and if that's the fact, then I look at this saying that in the future we will die, right? Because we're mortals. Mm-hmm. We're not immortal, we're mortals. Mm-hmm. We will die. And if our spirits do move on, and all time is going on at the same time, who's to say that some of these spirits or ghosts are not us, talking to us, because
sure.
time is intertwined?
Wow, that's kind of an interesting
Well, there
thought.
is a theory amongst astrophysicists that the question was put to them, where's the edge of the universe? And some of the theory is that the universe actually folds back on itself. And if the universe could fold back on itself, and we measure things in terms of light years, so that if light can roll back on itself, so therefore maybe time is not truly linear like we were taught when we drew
right.
little timelines mm-hmm. in school. So maybe that everything that has, is, or will ever happen is more of a cylinder
circular
than it is
mm-hmm.
a lateral line. And one of the things that we had a conversation with Melody Fletcher a few weeks ago,
mm-hmm.
and she's a woman after our own heart, mm-hmm. and she speaks about vibrations and the relationship,
law of attraction, and energy, and yes, right.
That the part of our existence, our atoms that comprise us, are the same amount of atoms that took place at the time of the Big Bang, and that there is not one single additional atom in our atmosphere that, or in our universe, I should say, that was not present at the time of the Big Bang. So if all the atoms are accounted for, the only thing that happens when we die is they're rearranged.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're rearranged, then who's to say that the energy that was present while they were arranged in our body just doesn't then take on another dimension? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I'm right there with you, because I think outside the box, and that's just another one of my theories, because I'm really close to what you're saying about this, because I don't think of our time. I always start off by saying, like, Doc Brown drawing that timeline on a chalkboard for Marty,
mm-hmm.
making
right.
it linear like that.
Right.
I actually think time, you were saying it was cylinder, I almost think it's like a bow on top of a present. It's just, you've got your curves, your lines, but they're always just intertwining within each other. And, bottom line is I look at what some of the some of our scientists have said about the smallest particle, like you were saying, like let's say the neutron, that they can zoom in on their, electronic, microscopes, and they can get so far down and they can actually see that smallest particle disappearing and reappearing, which physically or in physics couldn't be possible. So it's either not disappearing, it's phasing into another existence.
Yes.
Okay, so if
my brain is starting to hurt.
It's starting to phase. Go ahead. Okay.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. So if there is that parallel universe, this is really what I kind of came up with. Now I'm going to ask you guys: have you ever had a really long day? I mean, like super long. It just seemed like it lasts forever.
Yes. Usually there are days that...
Could I take a nap in there somewhere?
Usually there are days where you've struggled, but yes, long days that seem to go on forever.
And then some days that just fly by.
More of those.
Okay, now here's something that was really interesting. In a couple of years, it just dawned on me. It hit me. A light bulb went on when I was at work, and I heard a few of our customer service people saying, that this day is so long.
Mm-hmm.
I was already thinking that before they said it. Okay, well, if you're doing the same thing, either time flies and it's fun or this is hard work. It also started happening when people called in or just happened to walk into the office and just mentioning what a long day it is. All of a sudden now, let's kind of put the percentages together of how many people are not together having a really long day.
Huh.
And so it started making me think about the little neutrons disappearing. Then I thought, well, what if time just kind of expanded out like a tidal wave and then comes back in? What if somebody in 1901 is walking down this brand new hospital hallway and all of a sudden, they're having a really long day when their timeline, 1901, just kind of ebbs out, kind of all flows out.
Right.
And all of a sudden we're doing a ghost hunt at Waverly. Now it's old and, it's all... it's all scary and haunted.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Now we're walking down the halls.
Right, the same hallway that the person did in 1901.
Correct. And at that one point, before it ebbs back into 1901, let's just kind of think of that tidal wave. And let's just say at that precise moment, we see a shadow person in 2015. 1901, Jack and Sally, who are walking down there, say, what was that? They see a shadow. Now, 1901, continues because we still know that maybe time is not linear, but it's still going to follow a certain pattern. And of course, they're writing about their experience, their ghost experience at the new hospital. And of course, as through time goes, we're reading about their experiences about ghosts. But what are we reading about? We're reading about they saw us.
Weird. That is really weird to think about. I mean, it's, the way you're describing it actually I can kind of wrap my brain around that.
Right.
Yeah.
When you start doing it, I came up with a theory for it. I call it tidal time theory.
Okay. Tidal being Tidal, like the
correct.
Tidal.
Yeah. Not like tool time.
Right.
But tidal time. Right. And so basically, though, this is where residual hauntings. That I do have an EVP on our page at the Ohio State Reformatory, and I don't know if you want to play that one first. That's fine since we're talking about it.
Let's do that. Hang on.
It's the very first one.
The very first one. I'm going to play it now.
She would have kept it in the guest bedroom, do you think? I don't know. She probably would have kept it in the master bedroom. I would assume. Finally, this is the guest bedroom. This is small. Oh, yeah. That's the guest bedroom. Here's the family bedroom.
Right. So, was that a scream that I heard in there?
What we hear, and you can replay it again, if you listen closely, you're going to hear a light scream.
Yeah.
You're going to hear a gunshot.
Oh.
And then you're going to hear a loud scream.
I heard the loud scream for sure.
Right. So, again, once you listen to it once or twice, you are going to hear a faint scream. It sounds like a gun,
Mhm.
and then a loud stream. Now, I told you I put YouTube videos together. Now, those are the two investigators that you see in the YouTube. I actually cut that footage in from when they were doing something else, but they were by themselves.
Oh, okay. So that footage was not what. So when the audio and that footage are patched together.
Correct,
Okay.
because they only have a digital voice recorder on them.
Oh, okay.
They don't have the video. I'm the video guy.
Okay.
I shoot videos and take, but we weren't with them when they did that.
Got
but
it.
if you listen to their reactions, they don't hear it.
Right.
That's the thing. They don't react to it.
Right.
One of the, we were talking about time, and there's been theories that we actually meet a person minutes before we meet them, so that their energy or their aura actually precedes their physical presence. And the first show we did on the internet was with Sheriff
Tom
Dart in Cook County, and he was a delightful guest. And in the interview, I said, everybody we spoke to, Sheriff, really says you're a nice guy. And typically, sheriffs aren't in the nice guy business. It's not like you're the president of Lincoln Park Zoo.
Right.
What's your secret? So he went on to say, well, it's all about the people, and he was very humble and self-effacing. Well, Claudia and I, after that show, we started driving to Chicago, and we were somewhere around Manitowoc, Wisconsin. So we played the show back on our car radio, and the minute I said, it's not like you're the president of Lincoln Park Zoo, we saw, Claudia?
We saw the sign. We were on 43 heading south, and we saw the big sign that says Manitowoc Lincoln Park Zoo. And we both, the fact that we didn't have an accident was pretty remarkable, because we stared at each other and thought, so sometimes in life you have experiences where you might say something at the same time you see a sign. And you can tell yourself that, just like Tony said, that maybe our energy preceded us and we actually saw the sign but didn't know that we saw the sign. You can talk yourself into all kinds of things. But this was us
within 2 seconds
having turned on our show that had been recorded 2 hours earlier. We were just listening to see how it sounded, and the timing of that particular phrase played out at exactly the time that we passed it. So it wasn't, you couldn't possibly say that we saw the sign ahead of us and therefore we actually spoke those words. This was an audio.
My explanation on that, Jade, I want to get your opinion on it.
Yeah.
Is that I actually we drove and I saw that sign before we did the show, but Claudia and I know that we drove after we did the show.
Right.
But when I read that sign was imprinted in my subconscious. So when I said, it's not like you're in the friend-making business, it's not like you're the president of, and I needed to come up with a job title that would be conducive to being in the friend business, and that would be the president of Lincoln Park Zoo. So, and then the mere fact that I said it on the radio, and I'm seriously within a second or two, Manitowoc Lincoln Park Zoo, that those two things, it's one thing to have a word, but to have a phrase, that was a little over the top. What's your opinion on that, Jay?
You know what? It's happened to me. And it's really bizarre that we're even talking about this now. How coincidental, because it happened to me yesterday, and I don't know if it was the song. I don't know if I was listening to the sports about how the Cubs did not make it, and
which Michael J. Fox in Back to the Future said the Cubs would be in the World Series in 2015.
Oh,
Go ahead.
Right, exactly. But there was a key word, and I think it was during a commercial. No, now I'm trying to think, but it's like I thought of the word, and it was a unique word, and it said it right after I did, and I'm like, really?
Yeah.
It does happen to me sometimes, but no, I again, if we're doing this whole title time, what if that's exactly what it is that we're experiencing? I mean, a couple years ago, I'm just sitting back in a recliner. Nobody was actually around me. I wasn't sleeping, but I was actually going to get ready to watch a little TV, just a little relaxation time. But before I did, I was bombarded with memories, smells, and sights that lasted maybe about 20 seconds, and I swear I was about to pass out. It never happened to me before then. It never happened to me after. But it was the weirdest thing, is if I was
like
there.
In another, at another time frame somewhere.
Right. Again, the easiest way to say it would be like, well, that's your past life experience. Well, everything is by opinion. There's no solid fact of it, especially it depends on, what your religion, what faith, or, whatever it is. It's still not scientifically proven. It's a nice one, but, at the same time, how do I explain that?
Nor is it disproving.
It's not disproving either.
Yeah.
It's not disproving. And again, just by me telling you this, it's only a claim. I mean, I can tell you anything.
It's just your words, right?
I'm
exactly.
floating right now.
Right, right.
But you know what I'm saying.
Today I was talking to a friend of mine and telling her about the show today, and she was all excited about it and said, "Oh, I have to show you this picture." And she proceeded to tell me the story of a friend of a friend. It's like always like
right.
4 friends down, who's unfortunately a young child had passed away. But in this young child's stay in the hospital, the mother of this child had taken a picture of the monitor that monitors this baby's room. And so for some reason she took a picture for memory or whatever. And when she looked at the picture, so the picture is, it's like when you have, when you're watching your baby and you've got a baby monitor. So it's a monitor in the hospital room that watches over the patient's beds, in this case the baby's bed. And when you look at this picture of the monitor, there is the image of this baby laying there with, in the hospital, and the image of a figure. I mean, it is so clearly a figure, ghostly figure of somebody wrapping their arms around this baby in a loving way. Not it was actually a very comforting picture, and in fact, for the mother, it was very comforting because she did have to experience the loss, and so. I guess the reason I'm telling you this story, so this friend of mine got very excited about the show today, and when we've told other people, they were very excited too. Are you finding, and your whole thing is that you're a truthologist, you think outside the box, and you're open to everything, and in fact, in order to move forward in your field, I think you do have to be open to everything. Are you finding that more and more people are becoming more open? When you tell people what you do, are people telling, just like we are, sharing stories that we've experienced? Is this happening to you a lot? And are people more open now?
Definitely now, yes. Back when we first founded it, me and my wife, if you said you were doing this, their eyes got as big as saucers, and they're like, really? And they would do exactly what you're talking about.
Right.
I don't want to say that I've gotten used to it over the years, but now, whether I'm going out into the woods looking for Bigfoot and researching, which I've been doing a lot of, and if it's not some weird UFO flying over my hometown this past July, and
oh, that was cool in the clouds. Was that?
Well, that was actually a different one down where my work is at.
Oh, okay.
We have another one. I don't think I have that one up yet. But actually, MoveOn wants to talk to me on that one, which is weird because it's not even that I had the best video evidence, but again, it's like going out, walking outside on a nice summer night and just seeing something silent, glowing. Okay, now you're thinking of sky lanterns, you're thinking of all these different things. Okay, don't let my mind, run away with the UFO. All of a sudden it changes direction.
Right.
You know what I'm doing? I'm jumping in the car and I'm chasing it. That's just what I do.
Yeah.
But
I'm the guy behind you.
Yeah, see, that's true.
Well, that's good. Yeah, see, you know what? We need more people like that. But there are still a lot of the cynical people
doubters.
That, right? The doubters that say ghost most or Bigfoot, my foot, or UFOs. It was a plane. I mean, no matter what it is, they have an answer for.
Well, I think what's important for people that are listening, and I really highly recommend that our listeners go to WPIHuntsTheTruth.com because it's really a very fun website. As I told Jay before we started the show, you can actually, you can get lost on this website because there's so many videos to watch, and it's pretty compelling. But I don't think that maybe I'm wrong, and you can correct me, but I don't think you're saying that there are ghosts, or that there is a Bigfoot, or that this is that this is a such and such. In fact, I think you're saying that you're trying to find out what it is that caused this, what it was. Why am I hearing the knocking on the trees? Is it a Bigfoot? You're not saying I found Bigfoot.
Correct.
But you're saying, well, here's some evidence that supports that something different is happening, and I'm just trying to figure out what is that different thing that's happening.
Right, and the thing is, right now, our field, whether they're mixed up in just ghost hunters or cryptozoologists, which is
what
actually,
yeah.
You think about this.
They have one at Lincoln Park Zoo.
Cryptozoologist.
Yeah, he's a nice guy.
I want to say, I don't want to say these are made up creatures, but they are creatures that have been spotted, cited, documented, but they're not in our books. Okay. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's not a platypus.
Okay.
Or a tiger.
Right.
It's the Jersey Devil. Because it only happened in Jersey.
Okay.
It's
or Bigfoot. It would be Bigfoot.
Right. Well, Bigfoot seems to be worldwide, but you've got the Mothman, which is in West Virginia. So you have different locations for some of these creatures.
Or Loch Ness Monster, like that.
Or Loch Ness Monsters, or Champ in Lake Champlain. There are just different amount of different unknown creatures, cryptids is what they call them. So a cryptozoologist is somebody who studies them, like a ufologist or a paranormal investigator. That's how come we didn't want to just be locked into saying that's all we do is research ghosts. There's nothing wrong with that, but we broaden who we are from the unknown, the mysteries, the fringe science of things. And if they present themselves, we're going to be there. Now, the only way to do that is honestly by networking. You were saying to go to my website. Yes, there's even a little button that says submit a report. It's not even so much a report. It could just be to say, hi, Jay, my friend, so-and-so. Even if it's a second or third-hand story, I need to be able to put the pieces together. And the only way to do that is, for people to kind of come forward. I don't judge anybody. I don't care if you said, you saw the Invisible Man putting wrap and sunglasses on his head. You know what?
saw that too.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Well, we're going to be right back. We got a message from our sponsor, and we got some notes to catch up on, and I have a little story about the family spirit. So,
you have to be kidding me. What? Really? No hot water? Not today. What am I going to do?
Sound familiar? If not, it will. Don't be caught in a cold shower when you need it the most. When your water heater's working, you'll never give it a second thought. When your water heater stops working, it's the only thing on your mind. Hi, Tony Shemeka, owner of Hot Water 911. Hot Water 911 has the largest inventory of residential and commercial water heater parts. All of our technicians are factory trained and certified. Whether it's your home or your business, you really can't live without hot water. So if you have any questions or concerns about your water heater, just call Hot Water 911 at 1-800-GO-HOT-WATER or visit hotwater911.com. And don't worry, help is on the way. Don't forget to listen to Going Home with Tony. That's me.
We're going to go ahead and do the announcements here. There is just a reminder that you can find pretty much everything you want to know about Going Home with Tony on our website, www.goinghomewithtony.com. This includes how to connect with us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, where we post all of our updates and podcasts. And as usual, we have a very fabulous show coming up.
Of course.
On Thursday, November 5th, Going Home with Tony is taking the Hot Water 911 Boiler Room studio out on the road again, this time to Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin. We're going to be talking to the fabulous people of the Door County Maritime Museum. Tony is like a kid when it comes to ships and the history of ships and
Those
shipbuilding.
November winds blew early, and the Edmund Fitzgerald felt it.
So we're both really excited about being able to share with you the fascinating tales of the Great Lakes and the ships that sail them. Door County Maritime Museum is also exhibiting their Maritime, isn't that clever, Festival of Trees throughout the museum. Local businesses and organizations take the time to decorate these extraordinary trees, which will then be auctioned off to lucky winners on December 8th. So join us on Thursday, November 5th for a fun audio tour of the Door County Maritime Museum. And because it's the first Thursday of the month, we'll be welcoming our resident tech guru, Carolyn Nicander Moore of the Wonder of Tech, to share the latest and greatest in tech
Get
innovation.
your website in action. One of the stories that my mother would regale me with is, and this is probably from the 1940s, my father's mother was a spiritual healer. And on Sundays, there was anybody's guess who was going to be at the dinner table, and basically it was an open door, and they lived in kind of like the Old Town area of Chicago, and the dining room would be packed with, hobos, vagrants, and musicians. And one by one, whoever wanted to have a spiritual healing would go in the bedroom with my grandmother, and she would go into a trance-like state. But what made the whole thing, like, how do you explain this, is she'd start speaking in Latin. Now, this is a woman who was born in Sicily, for the most part uneducated. Sicilian was a very rough dialect of Italian. It wasn't Latin, although it was derived from Latin. And she would inherit the illness of the person that she was healing. So she was always ill, but the thing that they really just didn't like is the fact that, she was inviting these strangers in the house, and she was always sick, but there was no denying the fact, and my dad supported the story, that she spoke in Latin. And, those are people that don't have the exposure that you do, Jay. Have you heard of people that have, and what's your opinion on channeling and actually being able to connect to spirits while we're still in this body?
Well, personally, I've got to say, I believe that does exist. I don't, it's actually kind of more frightening to me than anything, only because, I'm a Christian, and I will look at all these, different things in the paranormal, whether they're psychics, mediums, channeling. I know it's possible. I just don't know now we're stepping into even a different realm of where you hear about demons or evil entities, which could also present themselves as what we think are spirits or ghosts that we are seeking for either entertainment or for the truth. So with that, I definitely believe, being able to see things, to feel things, to have that sixth sense, the channeling, again, there's documented proof of that. So it's really hard to dismiss it, saying, could it exist or doesn't it, or is it all hocus pocus? I do believe it's real. It's something that I don't mess with. I don't mess with Ouija boards or seances, or I don't use with WPI Hunts the Truth. I don't use psychics. And it's not so much a judging thing. It's one of those, have you ever, I don't know if you watch something, you just kind of feel uncomfortable, that uncomfortable moral feeling, and everybody's going to be a little bit different. But, then people will say, well, Jay, you hunt the truth. That's true. But now we're talking about hunting the truth and now my faith or what I believe in. See what I'm saying?
Is maybe questioned or whatever.
So, exactly. So there's kind of a fine line that I'm going to walk while I do this. So,
yeah, it's funny.
Our listeners that we're talking to Jay Bachochin.
Bachochin. That's okay. You know what? You can call me anything you want. Don't call me late for dinner.
Late for dinner. That my dad used to say that same thing.
See? Right.
So I would highly recommend that you go to the website, WPI Hunts the Truth. And I just want to go through a couple of
let's do that.
some of the things I want you to explain. So we, Tony and I have been poring over this. And so one of the cool ones that you have investigated was the beach house in Powers Lake. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, this one, this goes with the whole theory of you're doing construction, you're moving stuff around in an older house. This beach house, though, which has a little bit of history to it with Al Capone. And
really?
being one of these one of the hideaway houses
Mhm.
out on the lake?
Yep.
Yeah, we have one up in Egg Harbor called Shipwreck.
Yeah, the old
Oh,
one.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Right.
right. Mm-hmm.
Well, this one here, it's a beach house and not too big, but a friend of mine was working in construction on it, and while he was working there, he knew I was doing this,
Mhm.
and he told me about working, in the bathroom, ripping up tiles, and everything's ripped up in the house. You're gutting it out, and all of a sudden he just saw a black shadow just walk right, like 2 feet from him that just caught his eye, and he looked. Now, there's only one other person there, which that's who he thought it was, but it was funny that it made no sound.
Mhm.
Looked for him, called his name, nobody's answering. Okay. He looks outside, and, the guy he's working with is throwing stuff out in a dumpster. So there was nobody up there with him at that time. So again, now we're talking about the shadows. So, the whole possibility of what's going on here. Now, we've been talking about time all night long. So is it kind of what's going on right now, or what's going on in 1947, at this particular point, at this house?
Right.
Is that a prostitute walking around upstairs? Is it a gangster?
Sure.
You really
imagine
don't
what
know.
the bill is by now.
The bill.
Exactly.
Gosh,
So we thought we would check this place out. It's actually, believe it or not even 7 minutes from where I'm talking to you right now. Very, very cool place. And we went down there, and of course I'm recording with my digital audio device to try to capture, an electronic voice phenomena, which a lot of times, I'm going to say 90% of the time, I could be wrong with the percentage. You're not going to hear it because we're hearing on a different frequency.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And, these little audio devices are picking up a little better than what a human can. So, of course, when you play it back, now the recorder is playing it back to a frequency that we can hear, with our own ears. So, of course, I'm recording this the whole time, and you just take a listen to it. It's I won't say any more.
Okay, let's do this.
I'd like to sit down here for a few minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Read your friend's stuff.
Yeah, it's probably what I'm at. There's a
For you.
Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, God.
That's really pretty clear.
Oh, God.
And this time, because I've seen this one a couple of times, I actually heard the "Oh God" when Katie was sitting down there before you had looped it. So it's pretty clear.
Was there something after "Oh God"?
I don't know.
No, and the thing is, we put them up there as well because I'm hoping that, everybody's going to hear something different.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how come I won't give any suggestive thought on these. I mean, it's a phenomenon. We don't know what it is. I mean, are they ghosts, spirits, demons, extraterrestrials, balls of light? We don't know. And it could be whatever somebody wants it to be. And again, I will never push what I think it is or what it is saying. So this here is what we deem something that we can't debunk or recreate. And we'll put it on there just for people that are, surfing the net. Do they still say surfing the net? I don't know.
I think so. I don't know. Yeah, it's
okay.
true.
Yeah, you could be on a skateboard when you do that.
Do they hovercraft the net?
They hovercraft the net.
They
It
hovercraft
ties
the net.
your shoes for you. It's very cool.
But exactly. So if they come across this, they can listen to it. If they have any thoughts, I've got so many different links. It's all the same link, but they're on the same. It all comes to me as an email. Contact me. If you have a thought on that particular EVP, or if those big footprints that you see on the other page don't, you know what I mean?
Right.
Or the little balls of.
You want to hear other people's thoughts on what's.
I would love to, and not only that, but it also sparks, more conversation.
Right.
Like you said, the second-hand, third-hand stories,
Right.
which then gives me this big map. So you can't see where I'm at right now, but I got this big map of the United States behind me, 10 points, which I don't, by the way. My wife won't let me put one up in here. But anyway, if I had a map like that, I do. It's more digital on the computer.
Right.
But that's what I need. I need to be able to pinpoint whether they're the ghost stories.
Well, you could put a pinpoint in Egg Harbor, Wisconsin, at the Alpine Lodge.
Oh yeah, tell about that story.
We were staying overnight there last year, I think in August.
July or August,
And it's just this great 1940s wood buildings, authentic, cool Wisconsin lodge.
Is that down by the Shallows?
Yep.
Yep, a little bit north of them.
Okay, all right, yep, I know.
And we went down to the front desk in the morning, and just jokingly, I asked the woman behind the desk, I said, what could you tell us about the ghosts? And her face turned white.
Really?
She said, what happened? And I said, nothing. I just thought that maybe this place is kind of old and it might have a couple. And
right.
she said, did you see something? She was very serious. I said, no, but I'm just playing. It's Mommy.
Right.
Well, there is a ghost there.
Wow.
And she's very mischievous.
Playful.
And she likes to play with the linen carts.
I think she was one of. I think that
she
was the
worked
story.
there.
She had worked there as a maid or
a matron. Yeah, chambermaid.
Chambermaid, and so she plays around with the current help by moving their things.
The cart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so she's always playing around moving things, and so the stories are all spirits good, or have you heard stories where people that have had, experiences where the spirits weren't so nice?
I've heard more of, you get a few of those claims that there might be some scratches, but again, when somebody calls or emails, because usually that's how we'll do our first contact is by email.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to put my phone number out there just,
right.
Because then the world has it, and you don't want to do that. But first contact is going to be where I will get that initial, the first touch, the first hit of somebody having some sort of claim. And sometimes it's written out in one paragraph that's, with no punctuation and all caps, but they're legitimate though. So I'm not picking on the way the email is presented, but it's kind of like, please help me. It's kind of, we're getting scratched, we're getting this. So I look at that, and of course, my biggest thing is I want to help people.
Mm-hmm.
Not just going to be selfish and say, all right, this is Jay hunting the truth, and that's all I care about. I'm a humanitarian. I love people, and I'd help them out. And so I would definitely get back to them and find out right away. Then I would give them my phone number just so we'd be able to talk. But for some reason, a lot of those just disappear. They never call back. And you get a lot of those. Sometimes you get the people that really may not have anything but raccoons in their attic.
Right. Or maybe they second guess themselves.
Or they second guess themselves. That's the hard thing, because how do you take, just Jay seriously? You don't even know me.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, that's what it's there for. So have I heard of, some aggressive, type activity? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But I've also heard of the playful ones.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you firsthand that the cold spot is real.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that.
I've heard that a lot, actually.
Yeah, well,
they lack body temperature.
Well, actually, I don't want to say the theory behind that is that they're trying to manifest, to kind of come into a full figure. They're using all their energy. They're pulling anything from battery life to the air around them to try to manifest.
Interesting.
And that's when it gets just super.
Do you think they want to communicate?
People have asked me that a lot, and I'm saying, well, as soon as I'm dead, I'll come back and ask you. But I mean, who knows? Houdini. Who was I going to say?
Harry Houdini?
Yes, Harry.
His cousin Aaron, though, he was pretty good too.
I'm thinking Aaron Houdini. Where's that come from? Harry Houdini.
Actually, he never gets talked about.
Go ahead. That poor guy. But anyway, Harry, who actually said that when I do die, wife, that he's going to come back and, we have a code, right? But it's never happened.
Yeah, I know.
So now is it because he was unsuccessful, or is it because once he died, he didn't, linger around like Bill Bixby and the Incredible Hulk, the world, to try to find a place to haunt? Maybe he died and moved on just to a different, plane of existence where it is happier. Who knows? And maybe they don't want to come back. And so let's say the people that want to try to contact you, are they really who you think they are, or are you just putting, that
suggestion out there.
That suggestion out there that it is, Grandma Kay.
I think sometimes that gives us comfort, right? I mean,
of course, and the thing, that's the hard part about talking to me, is because I'm going to be black and white. There's no gray area, and it's not like I'm being insensitive, because I know a lot of people believe that, and that's good, and I don't want to take that away. But if somebody directly asks me that, I've got my own different theories on it, and I have lost a lot of grandparents, and and I think that they're in a better place, and that's pretty much just where I leave it.
If you had the chance to cross over.
Cross over into another dimension?
Well, I forgot the name of the movie. It's Brian Dennehy, Don Amici.
Cocoon,
yeah. And how they were able to cross over.
Yeah.
Would you?
You know what? Because I started over again with my beautiful wife, and I've got a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old daughter and a 7-year-old son. And then I also have a 25-year-old daughter and a 4-month-old granddaughter. But I don't know if I would do that just for the sake of wanting to know, because again, a lot of people will say that, like, let's say a UFO landed and they were nice, and they were Brian Dennehy. Come on, y'all love him, he's a good guy. Would I actually get in there and then take off?
Would you give up what you've got here? That'd be a hard one.
I'd be heartbroken. I could do it.
I mean, there's no getting out alive.
No.
Ultimately. But to make that choice to give up everything that you've got and leave it behind.
Yeah. And I think
exactly. And then you never age, so you come back, and my 4-year-old daughter is 67 years old. I mean, come on.
Right.
That's like Interstellar, that movie with Murph.
Oh, that one I didn't see. But.
And, the thing about death is, when you're 18 and somebody says, how would you like to live till you're 87? Yeah, sure. That's good enough.
Yeah.
Ask that person the same question when they're 86.
Right.
That I don't know very much. Well, Jay, this has been a great hour.
This has been fabulous.
It's just, we have smiles on our faces here because Claudia and I often have these conversations about, what's it going to be like on the other side? And Claudia always kids about my perception of how my Aunt Joe DeLisi and my parents are playing cards.
That's a good one, though.
Yeah, and they're just setting up the deck waiting for me. So until we meet again, Jay, thank you very much.
And I'd like to remind our listeners that we were talking to Jay Bachochin.
Oh, good one.
Thank you. It takes about 4 tries, and then I get it. And you can find out more about him and his organization, WPI Hunts the Truth, at WPI-HuntsTheTruth.com. I'm telling you, it's a great website. You'll be on it for a long time, so don't do it while you're at work because you'll get in trouble.
Or driving.
Or while you're driving. You'll want to listen to some of the videos, and it's fabulous. And I hope everyone enjoyed our Halloween special show.
Happy Halloween, everybody, and trick or treat safely.
And make sure you listen on November 5th to our show when we're at the Door County Maritime Museum. And Jay, thanks very much.
Have a great Halloween, Jay.
Thank you for having me on, Joe.